Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first webinar of the Research Working Group. As you know, to facilitate the information and trying to help you, because we all assume that we have very busy days, we have decided to substitute the teleconferences that sometimes is difficult for all of us to coincide in the same day, for a webinar in which we are going to be summing up the latest advances of the latest needs of the activities of the working groups, in order for you to connect and to take an opportunity to connect to the content of the webinar whenever it's suitable for you in your timetable. And obviously, after each webinar, if you have any question, any need for clarification, please don't hesitate to write us to go deeper in any detail. So we decided to start today with the first webinar of the Research Working Group, trying to summarize and explain you again the need that as a ERN we have to collect some information and to draw a map of research activities and research projects that are active and ongoing in our network, in order for satisfy the needs of the ERNs as healthcare providers providing patients care, but also in their capacity to promote and to encourage research activities among the members. And the idea for today is just to stress you again the need for TRANSPLANTChild to build up a map of research capabilities to satisfy different requirements. So just a few slides that we will just summarize the important points about this topic. So I'm sorry for those of you that do not know me or that didn't have an opportunity to connect before. I'm Eduardo López Granados, clinical immunologist, and I am the coordinator of the Research Working Group in the Coordinating Center, Hospital La Paz. Professor Baumann, as you know, is the technical director of this working group, and we both take care of the activities and orientate the activities of the Research Working Group together with all the participants. So the first thing I wanted to remind you is that among the different operational criteria that the European Union established for the activities of the ERNs, and also for the audits that we will go through in our development in the next years, there are some needs to satisfy some activities that are directly related with research. So as you know, unfortunately, our ERNs are not, they are consortia, or they are collaboration among different healthcare providers, and many of us, directly as principal investigators or participating as investigators in different research groups, are probably participating or leading many research projects in different areas of clinical research or translational research, even basic research. If you remember, one of the first activities that we did last year was we circulated a survey among all the members of the working group in order to establish or to identify the interest, the priorities of different areas of research and the level of development or the level of implementation of those areas among the reference centers. But that was most a very a first approach, and we basically wanted to pulse or to get an idea of the possible research gaps or the possible strengths of our network in terms of research, and also we pretended to identify possible points of collaboration among different institutes or different healthcare providers that may be interested in similar areas. This is important because this is just a summary of all the documentation that we have to satisfy, that is, as I said before, established by the European Union. And as you see, any ERN must provide evidence of ongoing research for rare or low-prevalent complex or diseases or conditions. In our case, we assume that the condition that we all share is the condition of the transplanted child and the complexities of this procedure, but it's mandatory among the activities that we have to develop in the next years to identify and fill research gaps. So we have to identify research gaps and carry out activities to fulfill these gaps. We need to promote, support collaborative research among our members, affiliated partners, and relevant patient, professional, and research organizations. And we also have to keep the members, the partners, and the patients organizations informed about the new research projects and clinical trials. And also, we have to reinforce research and epidemiological surveillance through setting up of shared registries. If you remember, we already had an attempt to get some funding to build up the first transplant, including hematopoietic stem cell and solid organ transplantation registry in Europe, also building up on some previous registries. So these are the activities that we have to fulfill in the coming months and years. So in the last board meeting in Madrid in May 2018, among the different things we discussed in the research working group, we, following the suggestion of Professor Kalicinski and Professor Baumann, we made an attempt to identify potential ongoing projects that could enhance the cooperation between the different members of the network, and also trying to build up on ongoing projects or close to finalization projects that could benefit from the inclusion of more centers, more patients, and that any of the principal investigators were maybe willing to expand or to propose to the network as a way to build up some capacity and to enhance cooperation among us. One of the first projects that we identify and that Professor Kalicinski and Professor Baumann are just taking care of developing on previous efforts that Professor Kalicinski did is the collection of data about AB0 incompatible transplants. And you might have received, or you all should have received, sorry, Excel file that was provided by them in order to include data from their patients that have gone through AB0 incompatible transplant, in order to ideally, maybe not in the first stage, but ideally including all type of transplants in order to be aligned with the spirit of TRANSPLANTChild and trying to see through different types of transplants and trying to identify similar problems among the post-transplant periods of all transplanted children. Then we also agree in that we will try to collect information about active research projects, groups, or researchers in each institution or hospital. Maybe, as we specify, the researchers are not directly located in your hospital, but they may be working on research institutes or universities attached to your hospitals or in close collaboration with your hospitals, and maybe you may be collaborating with some researchers in the area of transplant that are not specifically in your hospital. So the idea for this was to in a very simple way, to try not to overload you with too much work. We circulated an Excel file in which we pretended for you to collect data about researchers, the name of the researcher, their contact info, the ongoing projects that they wanted to obviously make public, just only the title and the length of the project, and also if they may be interested in obviously under their own criteria to expand that project or to seek collaboration and trying to recruit some more patients. And the idea of this is to make a map of researchers, research groups, projects, and projects that may be needed or may be willing to be expanded by collaboration with other groups, or just to detect which groups may be working in similar areas or in close areas and maybe thinking upon those matches or those the identification of these common areas in a more organized way, how maybe we could have strengths in different areas that could allow us to be better prepared for the forthcoming research opportunities in terms of European projects under the Horizon 2020 and other initiatives in the future. Because in our experience in this previous year, when we have tried to put together a call or an application to a call, like we did with the ITN, with the time constraints, sometimes only just trying to connect people to identify common interests to build up strategically a proposal that could really build up on our strengths and maybe include all the relevant partners. Sometimes it's difficult just because obviously the whole overload of activities that we are going through. So we thought that doing this exercise we may be better prepared for to accomplish these kind of activities whenever they show up. And you may have received also a list of forthcoming research funding opportunities in which as a network or as a consortia that we could form among network members, we could just try to apply, and for this we also thought and we agreed that the research map will be very, very helpful. Also, I informed you in an email some months ago that this effort is not only being or trying to be developed in each ERN, but being very, very aware of the potential or the capacity of ERNs to make a huge difference in terms of research in Europe. The European Union is trying to analyze what's the scenario in terms of research potential and research capabilities for rare diseases and for complex therapeutic procedures or clinical situations among Europe by the appearance in the scenario of ERNs. So, as you know, all ERNs, coordinating centers for the 24 ERNs, we also ourselves organized in some working groups in trying to promote activities collaboratively among all ERNs. And there is one working group in that sense, that is the research working group of the ERN coordinator centers. So more than 16 ERNs form part of this working group. And the idea is that, as in other working groups, there is another one for quality and safety, there is another one for clinical guidelines. So all these pan-ERN working groups are also in need of some capacity in order to promote these activities. So the DG Sante is very aware of this, and they are trying to help in this effort by the publication of different tenders to have the opportunity to contract a consulting company or a group of experts that could help in some of these activities. So very recently there was a tender in July promoted by DG Sante in order to provide to the ERN research working groups some help, and the company or the person that just was selected in this process is the Jonathan Olson Consulting. And then the idea of these companies that is going to be helping through DG Sante and through the coordinating center for some months in order to basically trying to build up what the efforts in each ERN could be in terms of mapping research capabilities. So the idea is to produce a report on the ERN's research capability as a whole, the 24 ERNs, that could take initially as a framework to establish what could be the strategy, the research strategy of the whole ERNs in terms of research. So they will circulate a survey that basically wants to compile basically the data that we are asking you or suggesting you to collect in this Excel data file we send. So they need to identify active projects, active groups, different types of funding sources that different researchers in the ERNs might be using for their research. And the idea is basically the same, to identify gaps, to identify strengths, and trying to propose a research strategy to compensate the gaps or to stress the strengths and build up the strengths in order to boost or to enhance the research in Europe in this field of rare diseases and complex procedures, thanks to the appearance of the ERNs. So in order to do that, obviously we need to first collect ourselves the information. So once we do this very simple exercise of at least having an Excel file identifying research projects, probably this consulting will be contacting each ERN in order to go deeper in the analysis of the ERN capabilities, and then probably suggesting also some ways to identify all these research opportunities that each ERN can have in their files of action, and also the possibility of enhancing the capabilities of research by working together different ERNs in areas of close vicinity. So what we have so far is that not many of you responded or answered to the Excel that we sent in 2 occasions along the summer and the last one in September. Some of you have received, and again, this Excel data file trying to encourage you to collect this information. And then we are trying to help you in this effort because we know that sometimes there are many activities and sometimes it's not easy to have the time to fill in even this simple Excel data collection. But what we are trying to do also is to compile all the information we have for from the forms that you prepare for the application at the beginning of the ERN, when each of your centers had to prepare some documentation. The survey that we circulated last year to identify with very, very big granularity the interest of research among the different healthcare providers. We are trying to go through your websites and trying to go deeper into the information of your departments, your associated research centers, trying to identify the groups that are working on this. And following some of your suggestions, we will try to help you in this effort. As you know, there is a team from the coordinating center that is going to be going around the different healthcare providers, the different participants in the next months, in order to help the help desk file for the CPNS that will be visiting your center. So following some of your suggestions, what we have decided is that we are going to compile in a file all the information that we have for your centers, from your centers. As I said, the collection of all the data that we have been able to identify in order to facilitate for you to review this file and maybe think a bit ahead of time if you may want to contact some of your colleagues or some of the support that you may have in your institutions, like, for instance, the secretarial office of the research foundations or the research institutes that are in your hospital. So it doesn't have to be necessarily you who provide us this information, but somebody that in which you could rely for this activity in your more close group, or maybe in some institutional support point that could help in this procedure. So coinciding with the visit of our colleagues to your centers, we will try to help you to fill in this file. But again, I want to stress to you the need of really doing a final effort to complete this map, or this first idea of what are the research capabilities that we have. We need to get in a bit more into details in order to have easy access to researchers that may be active in the area of research in transplantation, and also that may be willing to lead, to collaborate or to propose to the network different activities. So obviously the idea is that these researchers It doesn't matter if they are just clinicians or just researchers that are working with some clinical groups are really made profit in their research activities or in their research potential in transplantation thanks to the collaboration with all the members of the network. So just to finalize, I do please ask you to do a final effort. I think that we will try to do the best to collect this data and to put it in a very illustrative way. But as I said, again, it's a requirement that we have to satisfy and for which we are going to be audited in the next months from the European Union. And it's also something important that we think we have to do as a network in order really to make a difference for the future capacity of our networks to promote research in this occasion in the transplantation field. So this is just a summary of what I said, and I think that I basically went through I went already through this point. So we will try to help you. We will try to make things easier for you, but we need some help from your side in order to provide us clue people or clue persons to which contact in this effort. So if there is any question in any person that may be connected, or maybe if you want to go through the webinar that I think was not too long, that you could listen in your computer in a convenient time for you, we will be obviously more than happy to answer any of your questions or any question that may arise to any of you whenever you have an opportunity to go through this webinar. Thank you very much.